All right. Hi, guys. Like you said, I'm Gillian Crozier. I started as a part-time driver with Cache Valley Transit about 16 and a half years ago. And I've been through pretty much every job I could do there without becoming a director, thankfully. So I have been in the driver's seat, I've been in the dispatcher's seat, and I've been in the responder seat for accidents. I've kind of been on all sides of it until you get to the reporting to UDOT. So I'm not going to be very good at getting you that information, but I can help you figure out how to put a process in place for your drivers if they are in an accident. So first thing I'm going to review is just some of the UDOT requirements. And all of this, I'll tell you where I found in a minute. I'm going to get ahead of myself because I'm really nervous.
You got it. That was great.
Thanks. Couple things we're going to start with, determining what type of accident you've been in, what we need to report, and then where to report on the RPT online system. So, there are two types of accidents according to the UDOT Rural Public Transit State Management Plan. First one is a serious accident, and the second one is a minor accident. A serious accident is something that is going to involve a fatality. It's going to have a damage threshold of equal to or greater than $25,000. It's something that involves your vehicles being towed away from the scene. And if you are in a serious accident, it should be reported to the FTA as well. Excuse me, to the NTD. See, you gotta read my stuff and not go off memory. A minor accident is something that has minor injuries, so nobody's been taken away in an ambulance. Anything that's going to be a lower damage amount, and then your vehicles are drivable, so you can drive it away from the scene. Still operable, can continue in service. Down here at the bottom, this is a link to where to the state management plan. So I will give this presentation to Stacy, and if you guys need the links or whatever, you guys can get them, or you guys can call me and I can share this with you. But this is the UDOT state management plan. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. There's just a one-page blip on accidents that you can find this information. Starts right here with accident and incident alert, talks about all of the requirements, so kind of this stuff we're talking about, but it's really just a page and a half. Not a lot to it. So that page or that state management plan is also available on the URSTA website. If you go to the website and hit resources, it'll link you to that plan. So according to that plan, there are a lot of things we need to report. They are, when did it occur? Both date and time. Where did it occur? What happened? Witness reports. Were there fatalities? Obviously, if it's a minor one, there's not going to be fatality. How many injuries were there? What were the extent of the injuries? What was the extent of the damage to your vehicle, to the other vehicle? They want photos of the accident, the damage, copies of the police report, copies of your insurance information, and then if there was a drug and alcohol test report required, and the results of that. Once you've gathered all of that information, you're going to report it via the RPT online system. And I read this off of that page that I showed you. Once you report it in the online system, it will automatically alert the UDOT compliance officer and the RPT program manager. And then this link right here takes you to that page. You can see I just took a snippet from that page, and you scroll down here, you've got the online system. You'll click on that, it'll give you a login. If you do not have login, it tells you how to get a login. So if you guys are doing the reporting side of it, this is where you need to go. Other than that, I don't know a lot. You guys have a question over there? You good?
There's a question.
Yeah? Yes?
Okay, and I don't mean to sound dumb, I just don't understand. Why do you report it to the NPT?
NTD?
Yes, sorry.
For the serious accident?
Yes.
Do you know what? I don't know. That's just what's in the state management plan.
We should probably put some clarifications in there. If you are not an NTD reporter, Cache Valley Transit is.
Yes.
Most of our client-based systems, so systems like yours would be, for client-based systems, would not need to report, but our fixed route systems and senior centers are part of the NTD reporting we have to do, and they would have to report.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
See, this is why we like to have people who know their stuff in here. Okay. As far as what we need to report and where we need to report it, that's all I got. So, are you guys ready to learn how to create a plan? Okay. When you're creating a plan, you want to make it easily accessible once you get it created, but you want to create something that's step by step, easy to follow instructions, and you want to provide training. So we're talking about your drivers, your dispatchers, your responders. I know a lot of the agencies as part of URSTA are smaller, so your driver might be your responder or whatnot. So everything is going to be kind of scalable. You're going to have to scale it to your entity. I'm going to kind of cover a little bit about how we do it at Cache Valley Transit District, but everything that we have in here is scalable to whatever your size is. So first off, you want to make it easily accessible once you have it. So for us, we create a little accident kit that we keep in each vehicle. It's just a little Ziploc baggie that's got a bunch of papers and a couple pencils in it, so that if a driver's in an accident, they just grab this kit, they pull it out, they can fill out all their paperwork. Everything's done right there on the scene. And we've got accurate information that drivers can get to. It's easy to find. Your drivers, because they are the one that's in the accident, they are the front line. They have to be able to evaluate the damage of the vehicle, assess injuries, determine what resources are needed. They have to communicate and document everything that's happened in the accident. So if you are out in a rural location and somebody's been in an accident, they may have to do all of the documentation that both the driver and a responder would do. If it's going to take them, the responder, 45 minutes to get to the location of the scene, if the vehicles are drivable, your driver's steps may be a little bit longer depending on what your entity's resources are. When you make these kits or create your steps, you want to take the guesswork out of what your driver is going to need to do, because once have any of you guys been in an accident in a transit vehicle? It can be pretty scary, right? You're not sure what to do. So if you can create something that a driver can grab, step-by-step instructions, it's going to make it a lot easier for them to make sure that they're getting the information that they need. And it'll make it easier for your reporting and your insurance claims and everything else. Also, you want to provide training to your drivers and your responders. Make sure that they know where the resources are. Do that at new hire training, annually review it as part of a safety meeting or something. Just make sure that your drivers know where to find your accident procedures. So I don't know how well you can see these. These are just a couple of samples of types of forms you can have for your vehicles, or excuse me, for your drivers. This first one on this side is literally just, I took that list of things that we have to report, I put it on a Word document and put a couple lines on it. It can be as simple as that. The middle one is a form that we used to use that actually step by step tells your driver this is what you need to do, starting with securing your vehicle. Don't let it move. Don't cause more accidents. Tells them how to put their hazard triangles out if they need to. I mean, it's very detailed, step by step. They don't have to guess on what they need to do. And then this last one, for a slightly larger agency like ours at CVTD, we just tell our drivers, secure your vehicle and call dispatch, and then dispatch will tell you what you need to do. It takes the pressure off of the driver. If you have the resources and are able to do that, it can help alleviate some of that stress on your driver. Again, if you don't have an agency that's that with those resources, your driver providing that middle list or this other one can help your driver have less stress when they're out there in that situation. Your dispatchers, if you have them, must maintain calm. This is one of the biggest things because I oversee our dispatch office at CVTD. And when we've had a driver call in that has been in an accident, and I've got a dispatcher that's newer and is a little bit frazzled and stressed, the driver becomes more stressed. It just makes the whole situation a little bit harder to manage from a responder standpoint. So if you can teach your dispatchers and provide them resources that can help them maintain their calm, it's going to help bring the whole reporting process into a nice, manageable level. Your dispatcher is going to provide support for your driver. They have to be able to clearly communicate between the driver and your responder. So if you've got a supervisor or somebody who's going out to the scene of the accident, your dispatcher is kind of that midway communication. In some situations, it may just be a phone call between the driver and the supervisor who's coming out. Again, it depends on your entity. Dispatchers, if they're involved, need to provide accurate documentation. So we keep checklists for our dispatchers to make sure that they're filling everything out. And just like with the drivers, create easy to follow instructions so that the dispatchers can know what they need, what information they need to gather, what information they need to be communicating to the driver and to the supervisor. This is an example of our accident emergency checklist. So these are just provided pre-printed right next to our dispatch office, or right next to our dispatcher's desk. When a call comes in from a driver saying I've been in an accident, the dispatcher just grabs this form and starts filling it out. The purpose of this checklist is it puts everything in one place. The dispatcher is going to grab the information about the accident so that they know what they're reporting to both the supervisor and to public dispatch. It's got contact information. So over here on this column, we've got names of titles of people that might need to be contacted. So I took the names off because these forms are all going to be shareable for you guys if you want to use them. It's everything that's highlighted in yellow. Most everything that's highlighted in yellow is talking about things that they need to tell the driver. So these are the important things you want to share with the driver. You want to provide that support. Be in communication because that driver's out there dealing with passengers, the other vehicle, property owner, whatever it happens to be. By having your dispatcher remind them, these are the steps you need to take. It can help keep everything contained. It also tells, having these checklists also makes the dispatchers know what documentation is required. Again, taking the guesswork out of what they need to do in this situation. Any questions so far?
Oh, you're doing awesome.
Oh, thanks. All right. For the responder, this is the supervisor that's going out to help the driver in the situation. They kind of have that all-encompassing position of trying to figure out to make sure that everything is documented properly so that when we provide it to whomever is going on to the RPT page, it has everything that they need. So the responder is going to assist the driver to make sure that everything was documented properly. They're going to work with law enforcement and insurance as needed. They're going to determine whether or not that vehicle is drivable. Do I need to call a tow truck? Does this become a serious or does it maintain a minor accident type? Do I need to send this driver for a drug test? The responder is also going to communicate with dispatch. Do we need to cover shifts? Do we need to find a different way to get these passengers from the vehicle that was in the accident, get them to wherever it is that they're going? The responder is going to be responsible for taking pictures of the scene and then reviewing and reporting everything. Again, depending on your entity, what level it goes to, if the responder is the one that's filling out the RPT. Yes?
One thing I just wanted to add to your list was an accident I dealt with, especially in weather-related conditions. They can be fluid.
Very much.
Other accidents can occur after the initial accident.
Right.
And the driver I was working with, he actually was in the accident, and then he slipped and fell and hit his head and had to go to the hospital. So
Jeez.
two incidents in one. And there were 3 vehicles involved as well. So
That sounded like a serious one.
yeah, I mean, there's sometimes not a lot you can do, but
Right.
you always want to encourage them if they can to pull up, at least on the safety shoulder.
Right.
Or if their vehicle's still movable, like within a fender bender, nearest exit or safe.
Right. So one thing that is involved, and like I said, all of these forms that I put on here are going to be available to you guys to take a look at. On the one that's a step-by-step checklist for the driver, it talks about making sure that the vehicle is not causing a hindrance to traffic, making sure that we're not going to have more of that stuff. So there are some guidelines you want to be cautious of depending on where it's at. Reporting it, we tell our drivers not to move it until public dispatch has told us to move the vehicle, because a lot of times public dispatch wants those photos of the scene as it happened, right? You also want those photos of the scene as it happened. So if you can get somebody out there, you can even have your driver go take a couple of pictures real fast of what happened and then get the vehicle out of the roadway. That can be helpful. Obviously in winter, that might not be as easy to do.
But when there's jammed with traffic.
Right.
I've also had animal strikes, and one thing I learned that is a good practice is calling highway patrol and they can remove the carcass from the road.
Yes.
Because it could cause other accidents, or if there's just debris on the road.
Right.
It's good to report that as part of the process. Just one of those things you might forget about.
Yeah.
With everything going on. Notify the highway patrol.
I apologize for the smile. You talk about animal strikes. We hit a deer once, and we literally scared the crap out of it because it was all down the back of our bus. So, I'm sorry. I just always think of that when people talk about animal strikes. So sorry. So a couple things that we provide for our responders. This first form here is an initial observation. Obviously, it's pretty hard to read. This is basically just tell us about the scene. How was the weather? How many vehicles were involved? How many injuries were there? It's pretty quick. It's filled out at the scene so that we have an accurate snapshot of what happened. It talks about injuries. This form right here is going to get a lot of that information that's required for your reporting. Yes?
Where's those forms?
They are all forms that we created at CBTD. I will make them available. I actually have some here if we can make some copies, but I did not bring a whole bunch for everybody, but they will be available to you. I can even email them to you or whatnot. Next thing, determining does this require a drug test? So there are some specific thresholds with the FTA, and again, I don't know how it applies to everybody with your funding sources and not, but with the FTA, determining drug testing is pretty cut and dry. You have to do a drug test if there is a fatality, 100%. You have to do a drug test in a non-fatal accident if someone is transported for medical reasons immediately from the scene. So they're taken in an ambulance, or somebody comes and picks them up and says, I'm taking them to the hospital, whatever it happens to be. If they're going immediately for medical treatment, a drug test is required. If either vehicle is transported from, or is towed from the scene, you have to do a drug test. And then if your vehicle is removed from service, so there's disabling damage that you can't keep it in service, but it's still drivable, that is something that would require a drug test. So this picture right here is actually, I didn't bring mine, but it's just a little card. It's like an ID card size. These are available for free on the FTA's website. You can go to their website and order as many as you need. We provide these cards to all of our supervisors and all of our dispatchers so that we know whether or not we're going to have to do a drug test. Again, taking the guesswork out of, do I need it or do I not? Okay? Taking photos. Photos are really helpful in an accident situation for your reporting. It's going to help with your insurance claim. It's going to help determine preventability, all of that kind of stuff, who's responsible for the accident. So a couple things to keep in mind when you are taking photos of an accident scene, if you're the responder taking photos. Try and get a 360-degree perimeter. You want to provide context of the location, what was traffic like, what was the weather like. All of that information can be very helpful when you're doing processing an accident claim. When you're taking photos, don't use zoom. It distorts the situation, takes things out of context. So what we recommend instead is take one from far away, get a little closer, take another one, get a little closer, and take another one. Okay? Take more pictures than you think you need.
The more the merrier.
The more the merrier. It's a lot easier to just say, I don't need that one, I don't need that one, than to try to get a DeLorean and go back in time and take pictures, or a TARDIS if you're a Doctor Who fan. Obviously, I'm the only nerd in the room. And then remember to get detailed pictures of the damage. Not just the damage to your vehicle, but any other vehicles or property. Okay? And then this is a copy of CVTD's responder checklist. So our responder, we've got a packet for our driver, we've got a packet for our responder. So if I go out to respond to it, I just grab my packet. It's got everything I need in it. I don't have to question what information I need. It's all right here. The responder checklist, again, is step by step. I mentioned that early on, right? And it gathers all of the documentation. It helps make sure that we're gathering all of the documentation from our driver and our dispatcher. It ensures that our required information is completed so that when we're all done with our accident, we can turn it over to whoever's reporting it on the RPT and the NTD as needed. Hey, look what I just did. I reviewed what I just talked about. So creating your checklists is going to give a clear distinction, clear direction on what your stewardship is when you're involved in an accident. It's going to be more accurate in your reporting information because it's done at the time of the accident. It's not, 3 hours later or next week when we finally get around to it. It's easy to do because the paperwork's right there. You can fill it out pretty quick and get on with your day so that you have quick reporting and accurate documentation. And your documentation becomes easier to review and assess, and it helps with your insurance claims. So, guess what? It's a short presentation, but I did want to show we do have So like I said, we provide for our drivers our little accident kits in our buses. Like I said, it's just a Ziploc bag. Whoops! Don't tell him I dropped it. Oh wait, he's gonna know because they're recording. Crap! It's just all of the paperwork that the driver is gonna need. They pull it out, tells them exactly what they're gonna need, gives them all of the forms they're gonna need to fill out. We even provide these nifty little golf pencils. Sissy, you gonna go golfing? I got a golf pencil for you. These, huh? Sure, let's go. These are provided to fill out our witness cards. If you've got people on board, remember one of the requirements was witness cards. So we have created a witness card that's in here. It's also a medical refusal card, medical transportation refusal card. They just fill out one form, gets both of those. The transportation refusal is just saying, I don't need medical care right now. It's not saying I don't need medical care at all. It's just me saying, I'm good, don't call an ambulance for me. And then the witness card is also there. So we try to make sure that we've got everything in this packet that our driver is going to need, so they get in an accident, pull it out. Yes?
I was going to say, we have something similar to that, but we do reminders.
Excellent. Excellent.
And then with the police, if you put in the documentation.
Awesome. Great. Having a nice, easily accessible kit for your driver is super helpful, right? When it comes to our dispatcher, again, our dispatcher, I told you we just keep our little form right next to their desk, so when the call comes in from the driver, they grab their form. They don't have to have a packet, it's just that easily accessible piece of paper. And then our supervisor, remember when I said we have ready-made packets? Just a little manila envelope. We open that up. It's got everything in it that we need. That accident response checklist that I showed you. It's got all of extra copies of the medical refusal. So if there's more people on board than was in your driver's accident kit, you've got more there. We have what we call a communication form that we ask all of the drivers to fill out with all the information. Yes, in the back. You know, you think about this in terms of this is going to go to an insurance company, right? We all know what it's like dealing with insurance. We want as many details as possible. So drivers, typically when I'm responding, my driver's communication is going to be short and sweet. You know, let's see, I'm trying to think. I was driving along and a car ran a red light and hit me. That doesn't give me a whole lot of information, right? But me as the supervisor, when I'm responding, I'm also going to fill out some documentation and I'm going to put in there, this is what I saw, and mine's going to be a lot more detailed. So depending on your entity and what your driver's responsibility is, your driver might have to put that more information in there. Obviously, the more information you can provide that are facts, not opinions, things that were actually happened, that's what needs to go in those communications so that we have a great understanding of what happened. Yes?
Just after that, so with my insurance company I work with, they trained us to be very clinical. So that doesn't mean less or more, it just means your natural instinct is to talk like you're talking to your friend and you're telling the full story. You don't want to do that. You want to be very specific and say, you know, vehicle 1 hit vehicle 2 in rear, damage to vehicle 1 here, here, and here, and to vehicle 2 here and here, describe injuries. And
right.
That way you're giving all those details, but you don't need all the fluffy words.
Right.
Just as many details as you can, but not long sentences.
Right, yes.
The insurance that I know is pretty good about making sure they follow up with both drivers as well. They're asking all those questions that you've asked them on my report. The insurance company will go back and ask those same questions.
Yeah.
And get their version of how things went down.
And that's, again, why it's important to get that documentation right at the get-go. right after the accidents happened, because the information is fresh in your mind. You ever had something happen and you replay it and you replay it and you replay it, and then you're like, well, did this really happen, or is that just how I thought I should have handled it? That's why we do the documentation when we do it, is because it's before it gets distorted on, this is what I should have done, or I think I did this, but I can't remember if I actually did this, so I'm going to say I did it, when really it wasn't done. Yes?
So we're all talking about paper, having paper and paper in the vehicles. Has anybody in here started trying to do this electronically to get the paper?
That's a great question.
Any tips on how to do it that way?
That's a great question.
So if Clint's in here, he can put us together a program, we could do this on Red Cloud, so.
It would be really great if we could. I know a lot of places are transitioning to more digital things. If you've got a tablet, you might be able to create these forms and put them on a tablet, something like that.
You could use Google Forms,
Right,
you could do a Google Drive, and then the people at your agency can see them as they're filling them out.
right.
You can access that from your phone or
Yeah.
keep all the forms to Google Drive. And
Google Drives are amazing. I have just started to learn about that stuff, and it's amazing what you can access and what you can do right there on your phone. Yes.
We do a lot of things on the Bitly.
On the what?
It's called Bitly.
Bitly? B-I-T-L-Y?
And we do a lot of, like, we do our evaluations, and I'm gonna, because my girl is a lot smarter than I, and I know she'll put all them on there, because it's a lot of paper.
Yeah.
My problem is trying to keep track of papers in cars with drivers.
Yeah.
This isn't always.
Yeah, I think it depends a lot on like the size of your vehicles, because having a driver who's we run full transit buses, and sometimes we have 30 people on a bus when we're in an accident. Having a driver have to go to every single person and fill it in, that can become very time consuming. So you finding maybe a balance of a combination of electric and paper documentation may be useful, depending on what it is that you're dealing with.
Hybrids are not bad.
What's that?
Hybrids are a good thing.
Right. Trying to think. So we were talking about the supervisor kit. Again, it's got everything in it. Ultimately, what you want to do is make a plan. If you don't have one, make a plan that's step by step. Take out the guesswork. Make sure that you can get the information as accurate as possible at the time the accident occurred. Any other questions? I don't even know what time it is, guys. I at least went a half an hour. That's good. They're not going to fire me yet. So I do have some samples of pictures from an accident, so that you can kind of see why it's important to get that 360 degrees of photos. So this was one of our buses that was involved in an accident. You can see here, you can't really tell 100% what happened. But as we scroll through, remember I said get a little bit closer, take one from further away, get a little bit closer. Now a song came into my head. And we get a clear picture of what happened. We made contact with that parked car as we were pulling in. Pictures of the damage, pictures from both angles, zooming in, 360 degrees, we're going across the street, getting as many photos as we can. If you guys want me to slow down or stop on any of these, let me know. But again, that 360 degrees, details. So this was a minor. There wasn't a significant amount of damage. Both vehicles were drivable. But all of the same documentation was done, no matter the scale of the incident, that allowed us to determine which one it was and how we were going to report it.
So have you guys moved the parking space there?
I believe it was painted red shortly after that, yes. because the same thing happened about a week and a half later. Almost the exact same incident, just a different car and a different driver. So again, pictures of the damage. Let's see. This one. Again, this picture you can't really tell what's going on until you get a little bit closer and you can see the contact. I see you laughing. This has obviously happened. Excellent.
Body shop, yeah.
So our pictures, like I say, that you got closer pictures that show it, the detail further away. Different angles, you can't even tell that anything's going on here. Like that one, you can barely even tell that there's contact being made. And that's the importance of getting that good photographic evidence of what's happened. So this one, you can't even tell that there's contact. It just looks like the bus is parked in front of a building. Okay. I don't know how many of these you guys want to see.
It makes us feel better to know we're not alone.
You are not. You're definitely not alone. You talked about snow. This one was on a steep hill. The hill was like this, and we just started sliding. There was absolutely nothing our driver could have done to prevent this, because they were in the center of the lane and they hit snow and just started sliding this way. Oops, let me push the right button. And you can even see the tire tracks of the slide. So again, they help us determine preventability, help us identify is it serious or minor. Photos are probably your best thing that you can have to help that back to the future moment of what actually happened.
I can see why they're not zooming, because you lose the context of the outside part that isn't expected.
Exactly. This was the damage to the truck, and we all know trucks nowadays are made with breakaway mirrors, so this actually just popped back in. There wasn't really any damage to that. Let's see. This one was a little bit more, this one was one of our serious accidents. It was just two vehicles, caused disabling damage to both of the cars that were involved, or the car and the bus. And I took these photos. I was the responder, so good job me. Actually, that first canopy I was also the responder on, so that's why I chose those photos to show you, because I did a good job. Right. Blurriness, these are blurry, still shows what happened, showing the damage of the incident. This was one of those situations where I was just taking so many pictures because I was losing the light. That's something you got to take into consideration. The accident happened in broad daylight, but by the time we were able to get out there and start taking photos and doing the response, it was dark by the time we finally left. So get out there, make sure your driver's good. Once the responder gets there, check in with the driver, make sure the driver's good. Give them a project. Have them sit down and fill out that report and go out and take those pictures, get those pictures done. And our step-by-step instructions for our supervisors say that. Check in with your driver, make sure they've done this paperwork, and get your pictures. This was the other vehicle. So your documentation is not just your vehicle, it's any other vehicles that were involved. And then I do have, see, too many pictures, it's okay, because we know what happened. But underside, the picture of the damage that actually happened underneath the vehicle is important as well. Okay? Any questions? Yes, statements?
Going back to the animal strikes.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there's fraud now where people try to test things off of animal strike. firm or with the agency I work with, they told us to get a picture either of the carcass itself, or if that wasn't possible or feasible, some kind of evidence, like we talked
The
about
poop down the side of the.
poop down the sides, blood, fur. I mean, sometimes little toes get stuck in somewhere.
For sure.
But just something that proves that it was definitely an animal strain. I mean, I'm not saying that if you don't, that it saves the world, but it's
It is helpful indeed, yes.
And we have seen those posters come in.
Of animal strikes, of the poop down the side of the,
And
the blood and, oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. If you do want me to email you any of these forms, I do have a file, or if you've got a flash drive, we can plug it in. I can share them with you real fast. Or just, I've got my little notebook that came in the handy dandy little bag. I can get your email and I can email it to you. But again, I will make these available to Stacy so that she can put it on either the URSTA website or send it out to you guys. Any questions? Any comments? Do you know what? I'm new to this whole thing, so I don't, but I can tell you what it is. So my name, here, we'll just do this real fast, because I can use a computer. I will make it bigger, I promise. How's that? Now this is my mobile number. I unfortunately at this point do not have an office number. So if you call that, that's my cell phone. So I'll tell you what I tell my drivers. Please keep it within business hours. Don't call me at midnight unless we're going to do something fun. And you're paying. Anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate you being my first.